La 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 la. Right then, bit of God. So, oh, hello. Um, just brush my teeth. Never good. Just brush your teeth and then go do. You get a bit sticky. So, hopefully, you can kind of see me okay. I'm just going to crack on with it. I've got the script up in front of me. It's behind the camera on an iPad, and I've adjusted it already. I've done some editing of said script, and I'm now going to do a read. I've got my Logic running in the background. Yeah, make sure that's off. Awesome. Right, God. That's me. Hello again, us lovelies. I've recently delved into King of all Norse gods, Odin, and his wild adventures, stabbing and gitmoing himself to gain knowledge. Honestly, mate, what the bloody hell, eh? Today, we'll focus a bit more on his non-son, non-brother Loki from an irreverent Today, we'll focus a bit more on his non-son, non-brother Loki from an irreverent viewpoint that his favourite speaker on a corner of a different video channel has yet to cover. This is Almighty Answers. Forgot to put my everything on silent. Don't want to get disturbed. Hello. Actually, just check my levels. No, I'm good. Hello, us dearies. This is Almighty Answers, and I am your host, the bloody Almighty. No, you know I am, yeah? I'm Almighty. Yeah, I know, very, very scary. Today's topic will focus some more on Loki, but not so much on his origin or the bollocks he did to Balder, because Tim over at Speaker's Corner already handled all that with aplomb. I'll provide a story about one of his, if not the most, what the fuck moment. Yeah. Today's episode will focus on a story revolving around Loki's fatherhood. He was not only a somewhat brother and son to the gods, but a papa in his own right. Yes, he was. For example, did you know that he was the father to the physical embodiment of hell itself? Hell! Yeah, really bloody original name there. Norse, and at least the Hebrews came up with Sheol. You can always trust Hebrews to come up with something, with an SH at the front. Actually, that'll make a gladly episode someday. Maybe I'll come back to that. Hell, in all the religions. What do you think? You wouldn't believe the amount of people I end up sending down there. Naughty people. Naughty, very naughty. Oh, so many of them. Anyway, Loki were the father to not just hell, but Jormungand. The lizard that kills Thor at Ragnarok. Yeah, he did. He was also the father to Fenrir, who kills Odin. Spoiler alert, everyone dies. He were also the mum, to Odin's 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. That's right, and I'll get into that story shortly. But what the potent and bizarre sperm and egg the man, a woman, has. Huh? Not bad. Loki gets the reputation for being a trickster, and deservedly so, because, well, he's really quite a character. He's basically only out for himself and downright nihilistic at times. A self-serving cunt. Creep. Why the bloody hell do you beep that? No censorship. Eh? Remind you of someone?
I will not tolerate such blasphemy. I am not a trickster.
Sometimes. Anyway, despite being a colossal wanker at times, the Aesir, the Norse gods, usually had Loki skipping merrily about because, well, he were Loki. It's what he did. Yeah, he sometimes gave them sage counsel, but you have to remember that the Aesir are essentially a bunch of haggard, barbarians wanting to fight their own bloody mothers all the time. So it wasn't like this were a place full of shlow-mos and all his wisdom, which we've already covered, and that you should watch if you haven't.
Watch it again, even if you have mortals.
Sorry. Nevertheless, Loki were a relatively clever bloke, despite what that self-mutilating, rhyme-spouting wanker Odin would have you lot believe. Sometimes cleverness comes back to bite you in the ass. Or mare, in Loki's case, because that is how he ended up as Sleipnir's mother. Kid they not. Asgard were the home of the Aesir, and at one point it were well easy to invade because it were missing its famous high wall. This were a major weakness that any blind man, let alone a one-eyed god of wisdom, could clearly see, although he weren't the one to come up with the solution for it. No. One day there were a smith that knocked about Asgard because, well, what else do smiths do? Knock stuff and bang things with hammers. He were probably a giant, and if you know anything about Norse mythology, it's that giants and if you know anything about Norse mythology, it's that giants and the gods were bitter enemies and warring at times, so you'd think that the Norse were suspicious of a giant bloke offering to make a reek wall for them to defend themselves against his own people, but nope. Maybe Spitboy had yet to come into existence to tell them not to be such fucking numpties, but so the story goes. This smith... Maybe Spitboy had yet to come into existence to tell them not to be such fucking numpties, but so the story goes. This smith were a well-reaped builder, at least that's what he told everyone. Oh, no, the less we see of him the better, and I can see everything at all times. Oh, God. Yeah, me. This smith were well proud of himself and offered to build the gods a high wall to help fortify Asgard. He was so confident that he could... He was so confident that he said he could complete the work in 3 seasons. Now, that might mean naught to you lot, but... You got me. I guess it's a lot of work. Anyway, this he-might-be-giant offered to do the work, but he weren't doing it for free, of course. His price were the hand in marriage of Freya. Huh? Blimey! You can get why the smith would fancy her, but it were obviously quite the steep price to pay because he not only wanted to marry Freya, but the sun and the moon as well, as if they were take-home prizes from a bloody game show. In one. I mean, what the fuck is some random bloke going to do with the sun and the bloody moon anyway? I mean, hang him in his living room as they smash everything with the weak gravity? Nutter. Besides, everyone knows that in Genesis it says that I made the sun and the moon in the same day. It's true. Take that, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Back to the story. The likely giant wanted all this... Back to the story. The likely giant want all this Back to the story. So the likely giant wanted all this shit, and so the gods held a conference to suss out if he deserved it or not. Freya were well angry at the notion of her hand in marriage being some token to pass out to randos, and steadfastly refused to be party of any of the arrangements. Now Loki chimed in that the bloke should get his rewards. All of them! If he were to complete the wall, not in 3 seasons, but in 1. An additional term of this agreement was that the smith could only receive help from his horse, whose name was Svadilfari, which translates to unlucky traveller. If you recall anything from our last video on Norse mythology, is that there's absolute value. If you recall anything from our last video on Norse mythology, it's that there is absolutely value in a name, and that creatures rarely, if bloody ever, strayed from what their name means. By the way, who would name their bloody horse? By the way, who would name the bloody horse Unlucky Traveller? A bloody sullen, morose Norse wanker, that's who. These conditions seemed impossible for the smith to complete, so all the gods agreed on it with the intention of not paying someone for their work building their stuff. Oh, no, not you again. Shoo, bugger off. Despite this rubbish, the smith agreed to it. He were a well-industrious chap and, like I said, well-confident in his abilities. However, this smith were clever in his own right, in that as a condition of their deal, that the gods must also swear oaths. However, this smith were well clever in his own right, in that as a condition of their deal, that the gods must also swear oaths to pay, as they said they would, and that no harm would come to him whilst he worked in Asgard. All parties agreed to terms, and off the builder went. This bloke were like Bob the fucking Builder on cocaine, because he were almost finished with the wall by 3 days before the season ended, holding true to his deal. Even more amazingly were his horse, Svadilfari, because this were the most reet and gladliest of horses that ever horsed. It were wanging massive boulders all over the place to continue the build, working what seemed like twice as much as Bob the coked-out builder were doing. By this point in the story, the wall were well impregnable, but that weren't Loki's case. At least not yet. The only remaining work to do on it were putting some stones and shit around the gate to make it final. Obviously, this meant that the gods were on their way to giving this bloke a goddess. Goddess's hand in marriage, along with the 2 most prominent lights in Earth's sky. So they were well eggy at Loki for getting him into this mess in the first place. They threatened to kill him because they would lose all... They threatened to kill him because they'd lose all light if they gave up the sun, thus leading to endless dreariness. What? Their whole bloody existence is infinite melancholy and despair, I know. Anyway, Loki begged the gods to spare his life and swore that he would do whatever it took to stop the smith from finishing the job and taking their goddess and lights. The smith and his horse went off that night in search of stones, faffing about in a snow-filled forest as one does. This is where the what the fuckness of Loki rears its head, or ass, because a mare appeared before the stone-seeking pair and whinnied at the horse. This mare were actually Loki in disguise, and he looked well posh and fit as Svadilfari chased after him, heart and other organ racing to meet her. You know what I mean? This left the smith on his own all night because the 2 equines ran and ran and ran the entire time. This buggered the smith because now there were no way he could finish the wall in time to finalise the deal. But it mattered nought. Why? I mentioned it earlier that the Norse... Why? I mentioned it earlier that the Norse gods are a bunch of bellicose, truculent twats. So guess how they paid the builder for his reach service? That's right. Thor bashed his head in with the hammer. Thor bashed his head in with the hammer. Thor bashed his head in with his hammer, Mjolnir, breaking his brains into pieces smaller than breadcrumbs. Oh, he's a nasty man, isn't he? Actually, that does seem like quite a good idea, doesn't it? You might be wondering what happened to the 2 horses. Well, Svadilfari finally caught up to the female horse Loki and shagged her rotting. Shagged her so much that he became preggers with an 8-legged stallion of her own, Sleipnir, which would become Odin's primary runaround. A horse's gestation period is roughly 11 to 12 months, so this implies that Loki stayed in the mare form that long to give birth to an horse with 8 legs, even though he could apparently change forms at will. So why stay that way that long? Anyway, it's all bollocks anyway, but that's how Odin ended up with his pimped out ride and the Aesir with their fortified walls. Well, that's it for today's episode, and I expect you enjoyed the treachery of the Aesir and sex-changing, shape-shifting Loki's randiness. Good day, Almighty. Quick. Good day, Almighty. This is Tim, Timothy Byron from Speaker's Corner. I just wanted to add that this is Tim. Good day, Almighty. This is Tim, Timothy Byron from Speaker's Corner. I just wanted to add that's not all there is about this lot, and certainly not about Loki himself either, nor Odin, for that matter. Of course not. How can we cover all of that? We'll leave some for you, of course, Tom of Speaker's Corner. For now, Asterians, take care and remember to subscribe, share and leave comments. This be my will. Did I say subscribe? Of course I did. It's the 11th commandment. Tatty bye now, me ducks. Tatty bye. Aha, Tim. Aha, good day, Almighty. Yes, sort of half in heaven. This is Tim, Timothy Byron from Speaker's Corner. I just wanted to add that's not all there is about this lot, and certainly not about Loki himself either, nor Odin, for that matter. Hey, and there we go. I'm now going to go and sit in my edit suite and edit the errors and mistakes out and send it over. Ta-da! It's amazing, isn't it? Bye!